most people don't talk about them around the coffee table. They don't talk about them around the water cooler. They certainly don't talk about them at home much at all. They don't talk about them in primary school or secondary school or university. So the words I'm going to sort of dig down into, and these are the ideas Bob Proctor talks about, they are abstract ideas. So the words I want to use are the words like, we're going to use the word mind. We're going to use the word conscious mind. We're going to use the word subconscious mind. We'll refer to thinking over and over again, and we'll also talk about the word paradigm, which is in the media a little bit at the moment. And these are several words, there's 6 of them there, that we'll just dig a little bit deeper, so that my goal today is to get you to think about your future. And what you could do is to think about your life in this respect, that whether you're in a job or whether you're in a business, that your life is important to you. How I know that is because my life's important to me. So think about your life as being in the business, of your own life. Think about being the CEO of your own life. So what I want to do is just go a little bit deeper and dig into some areas. And if you can take these areas into account, if you can get them right, if you can build them into what you do, then you can have anything that you want. So right there and then, you might be sitting there thinking, well, get anything I want. You can't get anything that you want. I'm talking about getting anything that you want in nature. And so in thinking about that, what am I talking about? I'm talking about growth and innovation and awareness. Growth, innovation and awareness. So they're 3 words that if you are going to explore the possibility and the idea of getting anything that you want, then we need to talk about growth, innovation and awareness. And so the consequences of not thinking that way and not looking at things that way is that what happens is that you wake up tomorrow and today's just the same. You wake up a year from now, it's just the same. 3 years from now, your results are the same. You won't have earned any more money. You'll be still living in the same house, driving the same car. Maybe you'll be in more debt. The point is that your life's on autopilot. It's predictable. It's inevitable. Even worse, that between now and when you finish, you won't have got the best out of yourself. And the question you have to ask yourself is, what's the cost of that? So you need to have an open mind. Think of your mind like a parachute. If you had a parachute and it didn't open, what's the result of that? Well, you end up crashing. So you need to have an open mind. So I'm going to talk about this idea, a product that Bob Proctor, the guy that you saw in the video here, called Thinking and the Results, as it relates to your potential, as it relates to unlocking your potential. I'm going to go through 20, 25 ideas. I'm going to look at things this way, I'm going to look at things that way. But maybe we need to agree that results always tell the truth. Results always tell the truth. And I'll suggest to you that the reason you don't think that you can get anything that you want is because of results that you've got and getting now, and previous results are controlling the way that you think. So there's 2 things. You might want to write that down. Results always tell the truth. Results are controlling my thinking. Here's some things to think about. Understanding your potential and how to get what you want. Here's a question you might want to write down. What do you trade your life for? What do you trade your life for? It's a great question. So we need to put down a couple of words, and those words would be, in understanding your potential and how to get what you want, we need to put down the word wanting, and we need to put down the word education. And we're going to look at it from a couple of different angles. So as far as wanting goes, what we're talking about here is that you come into this world, probably had a set of parents, a mother, a father, or one or the other, and what happened was they started wanting for you. They started wanting for you. What did they want? They wanted you to walk, they wanted you to talk, they wanted you to have a good life. and they wanted you to get a great education because they think that education is the key to your future success and having a good life. And whilst that might be true to a degree, it's not the whole truth. It's not the complete truth. And so what we want to do is uncover the whole truth. So as far as wanting goes, what happens is that people, as they progress and get to their teenage years, they want maybe a part-time job, which revolves around money. Maybe they want to get to 18, they want to get a car. So these are wants that they have. They want to get their license, they want to move out of home. They have these ideals of getting a full-time job, that ideal job, which begs another question: who works in their ideal job? And then what happens is they might get into a relationship, then they might want to put a roof over their head. And when you put a roof over your head, what comes with that is the bills. And the bills for most people is like fitting a square peg in a round hole. They've been through a whole education system, could be 10, 15, 20 years of education, but nobody's taught them anything about money. And then what happens is they start living through the events of life, the social vineyard. Where are we going? Where are we going on holiday? Where are we going for fun? The social vineyard of fun. Where's the next party? Am I going to the footy this week? So the social vineyard of fun. And then as far as education goes, what we do traditionally, there's a traditional process to the education system. I'll call it standard education. It's a standard, and it's a start. It's what I call startup education. And it's in this education that you develop this process where you have some goals. Remember, people start wanting for you. They start wanting for you. So you start having some goals. And these goals, we'll call them goals to get. They're goals you think you can do. You think you can get that car. Goals you know you can do. You know you can get that part-time job. And so what happens is you get the car, you get rid of the car, you get another car. Goals to get. You get that house, you get rid of that house, you get another house. You get that job, you get rid of that job, you get another job. And so what we need to do is we need to look at this process if we're going to unlock our potential, and if we're going to break the cycle of results that are controlling our thinking, we need to look at it from a different viewpoint. And so if we put the words wanting and education up again, and we try to redefine and redirect our thinking. And as far as wanting goes, what happens is we could look at wanting in terms of a worthy ideal. Now you might want to write that down, a worthy ideal, because right now you don't really know what a worthy ideal is. You did write down the question, what do you trade your life for? It's a great question. What do you trade your life for? So as far as a worthy ideal goes, what that's about, and you might want to write this down, it's about big change. Big change. And it's about setting up an idea that inspires you. Now, whilst I don't have the time to talk about how to set up a worthy ideal, how to impress a worthy ideal, how to internalize a worthy ideal, I can give you a snapshot. I can tell you the purpose of a worthy ideal. It's the opposite of this side of the coin over here. It's the opposite. So instead of setting up goals to get, goals you think you can do, goals you know you can do, what you do, point number one, is you set up something, you go after something that you've never gone after before. You go after something you've never gone after before. So write that down. A worthy ideal, to go after something I've never gone after before. Point number two is to go for growth. The opposite, the polar opposite to here, going for something to get. Here you go, set up something for growth, personal growth. Remember we talked about innovation, we talked about growth, innovation and awareness. Point number three is to set up a worthy ideal. A worthy ideal is something that excites you. To go after something that excites you and something that scares you at the same time. Excites you because in the conscious mind, remember I said I'd use those words mind and conscious mind. In your conscious mind, it's something that you really, really want. But in your subconscious mind, it's something that scares you because you haven't been there before. It's unfamiliar to you. And so point number one, go after something that you haven't gone after before. Point number two, go after growth. Point number three is to set up a worthy ideal, something that excites you and scares you at the same time. Point number four, what's going to happen and what's going to evolve out of that is that whole process will draw something out of you that you didn't know was there. It'll draw something out of you that you didn't know was there. And so that's what a worthy ideal is. And so a worthy ideal is part of Thinking into Results, Bob Proctor's Thinking into Results program. It's one of the lessons. As far as education goes, what we need to do is you need to think about it in terms of universal education. Universal education. Something that's complete education. What would that be? What would effective education look like? Advanced education, elite education. Effective education combined with coach-driven and mentor-guided processes and systems that allows you to become richer in all areas of your life, that helps you develop new energy, new awareness. Effective education combined with coach-driven, coach being Bob Proctor, mentor-guided, me being a mentor, meaning that I know the caper, I know the ins and outs of the caper of thinking into results. And so what happens is we're doing the polar opposite of this situation here. Now, whilst this education here may go for 10 to 20 years and cost anywhere from 20K to 400K, we'll call that a macro snapshot, we can also get micro snapshots as well. So 6 years of high school at an independent or a private school is $270,000. A microcosm of university is an MBA. So you could do 16 units of an MBA in dynamic leadership, which it costs around $2,500 per unit, $40,000 all up, and take you 2 to 6 years. And so what we need to do is create the polar opposite situation here. So instead of 10 to 20 years, what we do is we look at 6 months. Because we're talking about education that's universal, complete, that's effective, advanced, that's elite. So it has to be different. So 6 months is what it would take you to go through a program like Thinking into Results. Thinking into Results, I said, is effective education, and it's coach-driven, it's mentor-guided, and it goes for a reasonable amount of time. What's a reasonable amount of time? 6 months. 6 months it takes you to do the program the first time. But in its design, you've got to remember it's complete. It has a lifetime application. Lifetime application means that you can take the education and direct it to any human problem you have, whether it be related to money, whether it be related to your relationships, whether it be related to your outside appearance, whether it be related to your inside appearance, or whether it be related to your spiritual inheritance. So 6 months, but it has a lifetime of application. And not just for you, but it's something that your family can use. It's something that you can take into your broader community. And as far as cost goes, it's not a cost, it's an asset, it's an investment. And for it to be an investment and for it to be an asset, it has to be something that grows. Like a property portfolio would grow, the income can grow exponentially. The eighth wonder of the world, growth on growth. The eighth wonder of the world is growth on growth. So what structure do you have in place for growth? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. What structure do you have in place for growth? And so as far as cost goes, it's not a cost, it's an asset, it's an investment. But because there are different levels of entry, you could think about 18,800 being a mid-level, and at 18,800, there's two observations that I make. The first observation is that we actually have a level, because there are levels above and below, but 18,800 sort of gives you an idea, and there's a level that's affordable to everyone. So that's a nice thing to know. The second point we've made is that there's a what I call you can have your cake and eat it too clause. Who likes the idea of having your cake and eat it too? Yeah, you can have your cake and eat it too, meaning that the education in the end costs you nothing. It's education that in the end costs you nothing. So what we've gone through are these issues of understanding your potential, how to get what you want. We've addressed it with a question, what do you trade your life for? And so in creating opportunities, how to identify your next great opportunity, what we need to do is we need to think about a couple of words. Remember I said earlier that we were going to talk about some words. And so I mentioned the word mind and I mentioned the word paradigm. But it also begs another question, and that question would be, what percentage of your potential are you accessing? What percentage of your potential are you accessing? Because that has interesting consequences and it begs other questions. What percentage of your potential are you accessing? Now, the researchers tell us that the human being, the human condition, accesses 5 to 10% of their potential. Now, by default, that means that 90 to 95% of your potential is left on the table. So that begs the question of, what does leaving 90 to 95% of your potential cost you? What does 90 to 95% of your potential cost you? Another question would be, does it concern you that you're going to go from here to where you finish in life not getting the best out of yourself, not accessing the potential that's available to you? Does that concern you? You get this one life to see what it's like. So we want to explore the word mind and we want to explore the word paradigm just briefly. Where the mind's at, the world operates on surface modalities. You might want to write that down, and platitudes. If you Google the word platitudes, what you'll find, it's a word that's used so often, a phrase that's used so often that it loses its meaning. And what that means is that when we use words related to human potential, human development and success, words like attitude, I'm sure you've heard of that. Who's heard of that? Yeah. Who's heard of the word positive mental attitude, headspace, mindset? You can have, if you put your mind to it, you can get whatever you want. We've all heard those things. But if I took an example and created a picture in my mind of a situation, I could take business, entertainment, or I could take sport. If I take sport, for example, I like AFL. And so there were some people in AFL at a particular period of time, which is worth an observation. And there was a guy called Rob Butters. He was the president of St Kilda at the time. He's a multi-millionaire, smart guy. There was a guy called Ricky Nixon, another smart guy. He was in the elite level of managing AFL players. There was a guy called Mark Thompson. He coached Geelong to a couple of premierships. James Hird, he was the coach of Essendon, captain of Essendon, premiership player, Brownlow medalist. There was a guy called Danny Frawley. He captained St Kilda, coached Richmond, and was a high media profile. But all those people there had issues with depression and drugs, issues related to losing their business, losing their family, attempted suicide and suicide. And so whilst we don't know all the deep and meaningful reasons, what we can say is that, as an example, people don't really know the full extent and the richness and the depth of their minds, and we can get into trouble. Our world today is full of these issues, these social problems that are the reverse of the social vineyard of fun, the depression, the anxiety, the abuse online, the abuse in the workplace, family violence, issues related to drugs, issues related to youth suicide and suicide. And so there's some real problems here because we just scratched the surface. A program like Thinking and Results is a program that is going to dig not just the surface modalities, but it's going to talk about the mind from a much richer perspective. Now, as far as the paradigm goes, I mean, raise your hand if you've ever heard of the word paradigm. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. When I ask people what they think a paradigm is, they say, well, it's an abstract way of thinking, a different way of thinking. And so a paradigm, Bob Proctor, the #1 guy on the planet as it relates to human potential and human development, he wrote this book, You Were Born Rich. And anyway, he says it this way: paradigms are the things that stop you from progressing. Paradigms are the things that stop you from progressing. Paradigms are a multitude of habits that have almost exclusive control over your habitual behavior. They have almost exclusive control over your habitual behaviour. Paradigms, they're the subconscious programs that control your behaviour. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, are you saying that I'm being controlled? Well, I know I'm being controlled. And yes, it's paradigms. They're the subconscious programs that control our behaviour. They're the things that stop us from progressing. So just think about things like any habit that you've got, anything that you put in your mouth, the food that you eat. Think about your behaviour, the things you say and the things that you do. So what I'm saying is that Bob Proctor teaches the process where he helps you get in touch with your programming. He gets you in touch with these subconscious programs that control your behaviour. He gets you to become aware of the things that are stopping you from progressing. And then alternatively, what he does, he shows you how to build and create new paradigms. And when you know how to do that, it's got dramatic consequences to your results. Dramatic consequences to your results in terms of the money that you can earn, in terms of the quality of your relationships with your kids or with your spouse, partner, in terms of how you feel about yourself on the outside, the weight that you carry, how you feel about yourself on the inside. So it begs the question, what do you trade your life for? What percentage of your potential are you accessing? And so here we come to becoming a superpower, and it's what stops people from making things happen. What stops you from making things happen? And so what we need to do is investigate an idea, a concept. And so imagine everything that's been said and everything that's been done. Everything that's been said and everything that's been done. Anything that's been created and invented. Let's try to dumb that down to 5 areas so that we can get a better handle on it. So that we can discuss this issue of what stops people from making things happen as it relates to the money that you earn, as it relates to the money you could earn, as it relates to the quality of your relationships with your partner or your spouse, as it relates to the quality of the relationships with your children. And so we've done it down to 5 different areas, and I call it the 5 circles to make it simple. And so we could talk about the body, we could talk about the mind, we could talk about spirit. Some people might think of that as religion. Some people might think of it as energy. And so we could talk about it from the way of people and relationships. And we could talk about it as it relates to money and materials. So we're dumbing down everything in the world, everything's been said and everything has been done. We're dumbing that down to just 5 different areas. And when we do that, what happens is that we can start to get a better idea of breaking that up. The world, if you look at all the media, all the news media, anything that's on television, it's just dominated here, 97% focuses here. And they're talking about the body, they're talking about, what your body looks like. Look at me, look at my body, look at my legs, look at my arms. They're fixated with their outside appearance. Not saying that's wrong, but there can be some issues with it. Fixated with people and relationships. Just look at the news and look at the media. Just look at the news and look at the media and what they're talking about, the nature of what they're talking about other people, what they're doing, what they're not doing, money and materials, who's got money, who hasn't got money, how much money is a lot of money. And so 3% over here is not really talked about at all from a very great degree. And so then we can get a set of statistics that come with these. And so statistically speaking, 97% of people will work a lifetime and they don't end up with any money. Whilst they might be rich consumers along the way, they don't end up with any money. So if you've got an issue as it relates to how much money you're going to have for retirement, then the program Thinking of Results can help you deal with that problem. People and relationships, 30% of people, the lawyers tell us, whilst entering one of the most sacred relationships on the planet, the marriage sacrament, 30% don't make it. And then they said that 60%, they go into it the second time round and they don't make it. As far as the body goes, the dietitians, they'll tell us The dietitians will tell us that 96% of people, whilst they might have good intentions and have goals related to weight release, 96% don't reach those goals. Look at the diet industry. Look at the before and after photos. But they never show you the after photos, do they? They never show you the after photos. It's the same with money. You can look at people, it might be that person that's driving that Lamborghini. They might live in that fancy house. They might live in that car. But I just told you that 97% of people, they'll work a lifetime and not end up with any money. They might look good, smell good on the outside, but they don't end up with any money. So there's reasons for that. There's no after photos in the diet industry, because what happens with people is that they, it's like a thermostat. What does a thermostat do? It just goes back to its original position. So whilst you might lose 20 kilograms, there's something going on inside you that says, well, we're going to put those kilograms back on. Whilst you might have a bumpy year or a bit of a purple patch and make a lot of money 1 year or over a period of 3 years or 5 years, there's a thermostat, and it just brings you back to the level of what you believe you can achieve. Remember, I said at the start, results. Control your thinking is a big problem. As far as the mind goes, Dr. Deepak Chopra says that 99% of people, they move ever so haltingly. That means they're not moving hardly at all in terms of their growth, awareness, and innovation as it relates to their mind and their spirit. Think of a V8 car. If you had a V8 car and it was only operating on 2 cylinders, would you say that was okay or not okay? You could even rate yourself here on these 5 areas: money and materials, people and relationships, the body, the mind and spirit. Remember, I said earlier that you're the CEO of your own life. You're in the business of your own life. There was a doctor in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet. You might want to write that down. San Antonio, Texas. He worked in the healing arts. He worked in the holistic arts. And he said this. He said, we're treating people physically. We're treating symptoms. And until we treat the whole person, there's going to be no health. So if we have a think about that, he says, we're treating people physically, meaning the body, meaning we're not treating the mind and the spirit. We're treating people physically. We're treating symptoms, meaning not treating the mind and the spirit. Symptoms, meaning a Band-Aid. Symptoms, meaning we're not going to the root cause. We're treating people physically. We're treating symptoms. And until we treat the whole person, meaning mind and spirit, there's going to be no health. So that was his first observation. I'm going to bring you to another observation of Dr. Thurman Fleet. But before that, I just want to play and do a little exercise. So the exercise would be to think about money and materials, to think about a large amount of money, to think about a large pile of money. Think about winning Tats Lotto. Think about $1 million. It's a nice thought, isn't it? Think about a $50 note, a $5 note. Think about people in relationships, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, an uncle or an auntie, your children. Think about the body. Think about the human body. Think about arms and legs and fingers and toes. So you can think about that. But here's a question, and this is what Dr. Thurman Fleet posed the question. There's a second thing, second observation. What does your mind look like? What does your mind look like? Most people think of their brain, but their brain's no more your mind than your fingernail. And Dr. Thurman Fleet, he said, nobody knows what the mind looks like. Nobody's ever seen the mind. And so he said, I'm going to solve that problem. I'm going to create an image that we can work with to help you understand what your mind looks like. It's a very powerful concept. And so in doing that and creating that image, which I'm going to draw up on the board, he said, this will help you eliminate confusion and gain clarity, because there's a lot of confusion out there and there's not much clarity. So he said, I'm going to draw a big circle, and then I'm going to draw a little circle, and he connected them up with a couple of little strokes. He put some strokes at the top here and a line, and he gave it a name, and he called it the stick person. This is something that you might have drawn when you were younger and didn't know what it was all about. And so it's at this point we want to make the observation that Dr. Thurman Fleet, his third observation, was that we think in pictures. So you might want to write that down. We think in pictures. And that's the function of the mind. If we ask ourselves, what is the function of the mind? What's the capability of the mind? What's its capability? What are the muscles of the mind? What's the function of the mind? What's the capability of the mind? What are the muscles of the mind? They might want to write this down. Dr. Thurman Fleet, as far as the function of the mind, he said, we think in pictures. So we drew a picture of the stick person, large circle, small circle, couple of strokes, line between, some little strokes sticking out the top, and he called it the stick person. So to get a better handle on this, think about a chocolate cake. Think about a recipe. Think about a set of ingredients. So if you don't know the ingredients, you can't create the cake. And at the same time, if you don't put the eggs in, you get a different result. Think about a golf swing. There's a series of steps in setting up a golf swing, but if you don't honour and set up those steps, the ball ends up trajectorying in a totally different area, totally different way, doesn't it? You get a different result. So it's really important that it's not possible to understand how your mind works without knowing the ingredients, without knowing the composite. And so Dr. Thurman Fleet said this, he said that let this little circle represent your body. Let this big circle represent your mind. He said, let these little things sticking out there, these antennas, represent your senses, your taste. You might want to write these down, your touch, your hearing, sight, and smell. They're your senses. These are the antennas to the outside world. This is how people are programmed. They're programmed from the outside in. And so he said, let this part here represent that word I mentioned at the very start. We've used the word mind. Now we're talking about conscious mind. Let this bottom part represent your subconscious mind. Then he went further and he said, let this conscious mind represent your knowledgeable mind. Let this part represent your educated mind. And so what we're talking about there is education, primary, secondary, tertiary, university. This is where we gather information. This is where we stack up the books. This is knowledge. This is educated mind, knowledgeable mind. Very different to the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind. Put the word emotional. Emotional mind. It's the doing mind. So there, we've built a recipe and we have the components of the mind. You've got a picture of your mind. And when you understand how your mind works, you can understand how everybody else's mind works. Make sense? We've also ascertained that the function of the mind is we think in pictures. And so we've created a picture of the mind. And this gives us an image to work with, and now we can take the story further. And so in taking the story further, Bob Proctor, the #1 guy on human potential and human development, says it this way. Now, it's important for me to say, if you're getting something out of what I'm talking about here, if you're getting some energy, if you can feel my vibration, you can feel my frequency, if you can intuit that what I'm talking about interests you, and as it relates to helping you achieve results that you've never achieved before, maybe it's income. Think about the idea of creating another $10,000 a year. Are you going to create another $10,000 a year doing what you're doing? $20,000 a year. What's stopping you from making another $20,000 this year on top of what you're already earning? Why don't we go further and talk about what stops you from making an extra $30,000 this year? What stops you from doing that? That's what I can help you with, and that's what all these ideas are about. Not just money, but relationships. Think about your relationships. If you've got shitty relationships with your husband or your spouse or a partner, with your kids, they're not going the way that you want, we can solve that. Your outside appearance, your ideal weight, because we can show you how the mind works and how the mind functions. And so if you're getting something out of these ideas, consider getting back with me, maybe online, or coming back if this at a live event, and we can talk, and we do what we call a discovery call. And a discovery call is where I talk to you about these ideas. And I would ask you, what do you want? Why do you want it? How long have you wanted it? What are the consequences if you don't get it? What are the obstacles between where you are now and where you want to be? So they're good questions. And so we can help you unpack that and solve that, because we're dealing and we have the intel, we have the information, it's organised, it's prepared by Bob Proctor, who is the #1 guy in human potential and human development. Imagine being coached by him. So there's a power that flows to us and through us, an energy that flows to us and through us. And it gives us the ability to do something. It gives us the ability to do something. So that begs another question. You might want to write this down. What's the highest function that you're capable of? What's the highest function that I'm talking to you're capable of? What's the highest function that you're capable of? And so you'd want to write down thinking. So write that down, thinking. And here's what I'd say about that is that when you went to primary school or secondary school, or if you went to tertiary or university, when did they talk about that? When did they talk about thinking and how to think? Did you know that you could learn to think like you could learn to type? Did you know that you could learn to think like playing the piano? So the chances of you coming across the information I'm talking about here is really, really slim. How do I know that? Because I don't teach it in the education system. It's actually a blind spot and it's a blight. And that's why we get these shitty results. That's why people get shitty results. That's why we have this social vineyard, this underbelly of the drugs and the depression. It's not taught in school. They go off on another tangent. And it isn't going to change anytime soon. Why? Because the education system is run by bureaucrats. And bureaucrats love jobs. They love their jobs. They love their safety and security. They love living through the taxpayers' dollars. So, a power that flows to us and through us and gives us the ability to think. And so what happens there is that we need to address another question, and what are the muscles of the mind? Has anyone asked you what are the muscles of the mind? And so the muscles of the mind, you might want to write these down, is your perception, your will, your imagination, your intuition, your memory, and your reason. So we can put them there: perception, will, imagination, intuition, memory, and reason. We could put them over here, and we could put reason, and that's your thinking. It's a thinking faculty, your perspective, your memory, very powerful memory, your intuition. You can't see intuition, but you can sure feel it. Your imagination, it's your ability to create, your ability to dream. Your will is your ability to focus and concentrate, and your perception, it's your ability to perceive things from different points of view. And so these are the muscles of the mind here. Why is that so important? Why is that so critical to understand? Well, if we think about the body, see, that's one thing you can think about, your body, because you do have a picture for that, but the mind you don't have a picture for, but we've just helped you by creating it. As far as the mind, the body goes, think about this logically, that you could take your mind for what? Some exercise. No, you can't, because you don't know what the muscles of your mind are. I just told you. Think about your body. Take your body for an exercise. So what we've done is have escalated from no exercise to exercise. We can escalate that again. Go to a gym, get some, a machine, do some exercise. So you've escalated it. You could escalate that again and get a personal trainer, couldn't you? And that would increase the duration, the intensity of that exercise, wouldn't they? And what would happen to your body? It would get stronger, start to shift and shape. After 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can do different things. It's just bigger, better, and stronger. You could escalate that again. Maybe you're like a marathon runner or triathlete. You could escalate again to an Ironman. Now, as you increase the intensity and the duration, it takes longer. So people typically would spend 20 to 25 hours doing that sort of activity, but it's escalated. Think about an Olympic athlete. They then employ a coach. They get a coach. That's coach driven. And what they do is they spend their 20 to 25 hours a week working on their body. Think about a bodybuilder and the muscles. Think about the muscles. and their muscles are accentuated. So you can escalate and you can advance the body. And guess what? You can do that with your mind as well. But nobody teaches that. But we do at the Proctor Gallagher Institute, Thinking the Results. We teach you, there's 12 lessons. It goes for a reasonable amount of time, 6 months. It's coach driven. It's mentor guided. The result is that you become richer in all areas of your life. That's the byproduct. Your growth, innovation, and awareness occurs. Why is that so important to you? Well, it's more money. And the question is that, what would you do with an extra $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year? I mean, I can throw this curveball at you. What stops you from doubling your income? If you're making $75,000 a year, what stops you from making $150,000 a year? Who said that you couldn't make $150,000 a year? You did. Why? Because your results control your thinking. 75,000 as far as you've got. If you're making $100,000 a year, what stops you from making $200,000 a year? What would you do with double the income? Would you travel more? Would you have more fun? Would it be a nice feeling? Would other people think highly of you? Would you be seen as a success? Does that make you feel better? And so what we're talking about here is this power and this energy that flows to us and through us, and it gives us the ability to think. And we're talking about the muscles of the mind, and we're talking about exercising the muscles of the mind. Thinking in the results is like an ATM. Ask yourself, what does ATM stand for? Most people would say an automatic teller machine. Well, if you want to have your own automatic teller machine, you need to have your own ATM. And you need to amplify the mind. You need to be able to think into results, as opposed to think results are controlling your thinking. So we give you the 12 lessons to amplify the mind. For example, lesson 1, Worthy Ideal, which I went through before, you'd basically end up with just an amazing, greater purpose and clarity, focus, a whole new network of energy, a whole new network of creativity that you tap into just in lesson 1. Thinking the results is like a foundation. I call it a mat. The reason I call it a mat is because it's like standing on a mat. But you think about achieving anything, doesn't it make sense to have deep, rich foundations? Think about a building. Naturally, to create a tall building, you're going to need deep, rich foundations. The Q1 that I used to have been to many times, it has deep and rich foundations that go 50, 60, 100 meters into the ground. So we give you that mat, that foundation. What's a MAT stand for? M-A-T. It's a mind-altering toolbox. It's a mind-altering toolbox. In standard education, which I was talking about earlier, traditional education, in the university, there's a microcosm there called MBA, Master of Business Administration. So a lot of people think that getting an MBA is going to really, I guess when I've asked people that, I've asked many people, they think, well, it's going to maybe get me into a better network. Usually it's a whole lot of work for not much result. Although I guess it makes you feel good because you can say MBA. But the real MBA that you want is to know how to conduct your own mind-body alignment. Your own mind-body alignment. Now that's powerful. So we deal with that in lesson 3, 4, 5, and 6. We help you deal with this mind-body alignment. And what's the result of that? Well, you're in control. You're in control of your outside world. See, most people hear the power that flows to us and through us and gives them the ability to think. And what happens is, I told you earlier, that they're programmed through their senses. So what that means is that the moment you hear something, hear someone talking, the news, the media, you read something, your senses, you're programmed through your senses from the outside world. So you live from the outside in. That's how most people live, and that's how you probably live. You live through your ego. Look at me, look at my house, look at my car. Look at my business card. Look who I associate with. Look at me. Look at how good I look. So you live through your ego and you live in the world of competition. Now, is there anything wrong with that? Not if you want doubts, worries, insecurities. Not if you want fears. Because that's what happens, is because you can't concentrate, you can't focus, not disciplined, not dedicated. In fact, you're disrupted, you're distracted, and it leads to failure. When you live from the outside in, the outside world controls you. When you understand how the mind functions, you control the outside world. You do not want to let the outside world control you. You do control the outside world when you understand how the mind functions. So we teach you that in Thinking Your Results. It's a nice feeling. How many people have known people who have said they're going to do this and they're going to do that? And then a year goes by, 2 years go by, 3 years go by, and nothing changes. The reason for that is because they are controlled by their outside world. And they don't know how their mind operates. And so in unpacking the mind, we need to know how the mind operates. We need to know the purpose of the mind. And we need to know the meaning of the mind. And so in thinking about that, the mind operates. That's the question. How does the mind operate? The mind operates by law. What sort of law? Universal law. What's universal law? A universal law operates for everybody, everywhere, in every instant. Universal laws. Now, Bob Proctor, the #1 guy in human potential and human development, he says that there are 7 primary laws and 11 secondary laws. I don't have time to go through them now, but we teach you that in the Thinking Results. There's a universal law of vibration where there's an energy flowing to you and through you. Energy is everywhere. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. We are energy. Our human condition, our human body, our body's full of molecules. We are a ball of atoms, a mass of atoms. There's about 12 million kilowatt pounds of power, of potential power in the atoms and electrons of our body. We're a walking mass of energy. And so there's a power that flows to us and through us, and we operate through universal laws. The universal law of vibration, the universal law of cause and effect, the universal law of polarities. The universal law of polarities is a universal law of opposites. Where there's an up, there's a down. Where there's an inside and outside. Where there's a night and a day, a yin and a yang, a negative and a positive. Get the picture? Universal law of polarities. And so what's happened here is that there's a power that flows to us and through us. We start to understand how the mind operates. The mind operates by law, universal law. We're not talking Australian law, Victorian law, or Jude law. We're talking about universal law. And so this power that flows to us and through us, and it gives us the ability to think. And so what we need to do, because we know, and I told you earlier that paradigms are the things that stop you from progressing. Paradigms are a multitude of habits that have almost exclusive control over your habitual behavior. What's the problem with that? The problem is you're a human being and you're a creature of habit. Your behavior is a creature of habit. So to break that cycle, you need to understand how to take a thought into the deep subconscious regions of your mind. Here, this is where your paradigms live, in the deep subconscious regions of your mind. Bob Proctor teaches you how to create new paradigms that has dramatic consequences to your results. It's incredible to actually learn and have this education. And so think about a plant. Think about putting a plant into a ground. Think about planting a tree. And a horticulturalist told me this one day, that what it wants to do is to suck nutrients out of the ground. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, wants to grow and wants to evolve. But how do you do that? How do you culture it and how do you nurture that? So you might put some water on it, give it some sun, keep the weeds away, put some fertilizer on it. Can you see we can do that? Our mind is like a garden as well. And we need to keep the weeds away. What are the weeds? We need to have some balance in terms of this entertainment, the news and our mobile phone and the text and the emails, all the noise that's going on that keeps us distracted, keeps us disrupted. And so we need to be able to take these thoughts and we need to cultivate our thoughts, nurture our thoughts at a deep subconscious level. And so whilst we can understand how a plant and a tree might do that, our thoughts are energy. A thought is energy. A thought is information and energy, and you can cultivate it and you can nurture it. And that's what we teach you in the Thinking and Results. And that's how you create new paradigms. And the paradigms are the things that stop you from progressing. But if you know how to build new paradigms, what happens is you have results that stick. Remember, results always tell the truth. Almost all people, they live through their results are controlling their thinking. So we need to shift that. We need to change that. We need to alter that. And so an amazing thing happens here that when you understand how to take and alter your thoughts, cultivate them, nurture them, internalize them, impress them, what happens is that you can change the amplitude of vibration of your body. Why is that so important? Because your mind controls the body. It's your mind that controls your body. The body's an instrument of the mind. The mind controls the body. And so what we can do is change the amplitude of vibration. And why that's so important is that we can control our actions here. When we can charge a thought, which is information and energy, with emotions, we can change the vibration of our body and we can start to act. Why is that so important? Because we can start to make things happen. So I'm giving you here, I'm showing you, I'm bringing order to the mind, point number one, and I'm showing you right now how the creative process works. And so we can create actions. And what happens when you understand universal laws, the universal law of cause and effect says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sir Isaac Newton said that back in the 1600s, and he said, and he was a physicist and a scientist, universal law of cause and effect, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so we use that law, and so as you learn to create new actions, what happens is the universe creates a reaction. And so what that means is that you are in control of your results. This is where your results are here. You're in control of your results. You're in control of your circumstances. Who'd like to be in control of their circumstances, their environment, their conditions? See, when you're not in control of the circumstances, environment, and conditions, you're letting the outside world dominate you. Bob Proctor, the #1 guy in human potential and human development, said it this way. He said, this idea, the stick person, is the most valuable idea that he's ever seen. The most valuable idea that he's ever seen. He took it to Remax Real Insurance, Malaysian Airlines, Metropolitan Life Insurance, Prudential Life Insurance, and the executive officers in those companies said, Bob Proctor, this stick person, this idea, had added more money to their bottom line in their companies than any other idea they'd seen. Bob Proctor says this is the most valuable idea that he's ever seen. This is the #1 guy in human potential and human development and success. Bob Proctor took this into the University of Harvard, Stanton and Eton. He taught psychologists and psychiatrists, Rhodes Scholars. Dr. John Mike from the Montessori School in Fort Lauderdale said that Bob Proctor taught him more about the mind in 1 year that he'd learned in 4 years of medical school. He said Bob Proctor taught him more about the human mind than he'd done in psychiatric training. He had 5 years of psychiatric training. Bob Proctor says this. He says, if you don't understand, if you don't spend a respectable amount of time understanding the relationship between your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, your body, as it relates to how to make things happen, you are dealing on a hit and miss, baby. You are dealing on a hit and miss basis. So what I've done is I've talked about wants and how important wants are. I've talked about knowledge and how knowledge can only get you so far. And I've talked about the mind. And there's so much I haven't talked about. I haven't talked about your beliefs. I haven't talked about your self-image. I haven't talked about your fears. I certainly haven't talked about quantum leaps. Quantum leaps is something that we teach in the thinking results, and quantum leaps implies an explosive jump in your personal performance. Think about what I just said. It implies an explosive jump in your personal performance, way beyond the next logical step. Who'd like that? Who'd like to experience an explosive jump in their personal performance way beyond the next logical step? Think about that, what it would do for you in terms of your money and material side of the life. Now we need to finish up now, and there was a management consultant called Peter Drucker, and Peter Drucker said it this way. He said, we need to do 4 things. First thing he said, we need to cull this noise, because this noise here is really damaging. So if we can do that, we can help people do that. But remember I said you're the CEO of your own life. Remember I said that you're in the business of your own life. Well, you need to deliver, plan and gamble. What do you need to deliver? You need to deliver cash flow. If you're the CEO of your own life, you need to deliver cash flow. So if you want to learn how to make incremental improvement, that's just easy. 10, 20, 30, $40,000 a year, no worries. But if you want to really explode your results, quantum leaps, double your income, triple your income, then we can show you the techniques on how to do that. So you need to deliver income. You need to deliver cash flow. What's your plan? What's your plan from today? And here's something I heard many years ago. You might want to think about this and ponder this. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you'll always have what you've got. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you'll always have what you've got. But if you want something you've never had before, you've got to do something you've never done before. You've heard the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. You've heard that. So your choice is to wake up tomorrow just the same as you have today, not make a decision, to act on this information that I've given you, or to act, make a decision. Use the universal law of polarities. Do the opposite. If you're into indecision, make a decision. And so in making a decision to help you, what I'll do, if you can make the decision today to book in for a free discovery call, you just go to my website and there's a button there that you can push. Then what that means is that we'll give you a free copy of You Were Born Rich, a free electronic copy. Janine will get your email address and she'll send you a free electronic copy. Now, why is that important? Well, there's over 100 CDs in this book. What's a CD? Point of critical distinction, point of clarity and depth. You're either creating or you're disintegrating. I've read this book multiple times. If you read this book, you'll become richer in all areas of your life. So we'll give you it as a gift if you book in to discovery call, but only do that if you feel that you're resonating with my energy and what I'm saying, and you want help. If you want help, I can help you. Third thing is to gamble. Deliver, plan and gamble. What's the gamble? Well, the gamble is where the world's at in terms of future trends. What are the future trends? Gene sequencing technology, machine learning, robotics, drones. Think about the driverless cars that are on our doorstep. Think about the Internet of Things. Think of 3D printing. See, all those things there are already happening. So how do you fit into all that? I've told you that you need to think about understanding your potential, how to get what you want, looking at opportunities that are created from the inside, not the outside. So you need to learn to live from the inside out. What's the gamble? You're the gamble. Bet on yourself, back yourself in, back me in, back the #1 guy in human potential, Bob Proctor in, and we'll deliver results that you dream of. So that's it. Now, I'm going to be talking again on Thursday night, and you can attend. I'm not sure whether it's 6. You can go to our website and you can check that out. You do need to book in. We do it on I think we're going to do a Zoom call. And so you can come back and have a look at these ideas, think about it some more. But act today at booking your discovery call, and maybe somebody that's looking to progress, somebody that wants to make more money and have better relationships, maybe someone that wants to lose weight, maybe someone who wants to feel better about themselves from the inside. So that's it. Have a great day and see you on the next stream. Bye.